Attorney General. Mr. Cox, welcome to Pure Politics, and thanks for finally going on the record.
Thanks. I'm happy to be here. In retirement, I'm perfectly free to be with you and looking forward to it.
You can talk now. And
I can.
I wanted to start with the retirement because last August, everybody realized that you were stepping down, and you're going to go back to the farm that you have in Hart County. And then a couple months later, we find out you couldn't stay away. Now you're on the campaign trail doing all kinds of events for Todd P'Pool. What drew you to that campaign?
I met this young guy almost newly out of UK law school back in 2000. Todd P'Pool had graduated in '99, and we successfully recruited him to run for a state house seat down in his home county of Hopkins. And I met him, and he joined the small band of Republicans in that 70% Democrat county. And when he called back in January of this year, having watched his development, I just couldn't say no.
And of course, he lost that campaign against Eddie Ballard, who just passed away.
Yes.
And then Todd P'Pool went on to become the first Republican to win in Hopkins County. What is it about his campaign? Because a lot of Republicans are buzzing about him. Is he the Republicans' best hope to win a statewide office this year?
I wouldn't say he's the best hope, but he is certainly equal to any of the members of the team this year. He's got a certain charisma. Todd has been very successful in the private practice of law. He does one of those typical small town practices. Prior to winning the county attorney's office, he has got a single partner, got a family that I really think a lot of. And, he came from very poor circumstances. He's the first person in his family to graduate from college. He's just made a real success of himself locally, and I was astonished when he won the county attorney's race in that tough county in '06.
We caught up with Todd P'Pool right on primary night, and of course he didn't have a primary race, but Kenny Colson, one of our reporters, talked with him, and he made some interesting comments about running more of an independent race, not necessarily being pulled into the slate. Take a look at what he said.
Yes.
I'm running for the office of Attorney General. I think by nature that should be a very independent office, and I intend on running an independent campaign.
What did he mean by that?
Well, one of my rules is that you may be part of a broader ticket in a local race, statewide race, but you have to run your own campaign. Otherwise, you'll find out yourself depending on others to set your theme, to tell you how you're going to do your media campaign and all the other elements. You have to run a campaign that is designed and executed by yourself. You still want to be a part of the greater team, and we certainly will be. But AG, as Attorney General, you do have sort of a set-apart position naturally anyhow by virtue of being the state's top law enforcement official.
Well, I couldn't help to think back to Senator McConnell's '77 campaign for judge executive when he kind of, ruffled some feathers in Jefferson County Republican circles when he, I think the term he used was delinked himself from the Republican slate, and he was the only Republican to win that fall. Is that kind of the same thinking here?
That is a very good recollection. And that I learned from that, and I also learned from our campaign for re-election in 1981, when we did run as a slate, as a ticket, and darn near lost that 1981 re-election campaign.
So was that advice that you and even Senator McConnell gave to Todd P'Pool about this race?
I'm not sure that he needed our advice, but I reinforced it, that we have to run our own race. We have to assemble our own team and rely on our own resources.
And when you say running his own race, how involved, though, is Senator McConnell going to be? Obviously, you've got ties to Senator McConnell, of course, and Senator McConnell held that massive fundraiser for him in Madisonville earlier this year. How involved is he going to be?
He's going to be closely involved. He's a very busy guy as a Republican leader of the U.S. Senate, but he has encouraged Todd from the very beginning. Like me, he's known Todd since the early days of returning to Madisonville. He's impressed by him. He has helped him raise money. I may well ask the senator to help us a little bit more on the money side. He will He and Senator Paul will be guests of honor at a event next week in Washington.
How much money do you think it's going to take to run against an incumbent Democratic Attorney General, Jack Conway?
It will be an expensive race. It will be somewhere north of $1 million. Yeah. And that's quite a challenge.
One of the other lessons I think Senator McConnell always said was when you're running against somebody like that who's entrenched, try and use humor in some of those attack ads. And what might we see from the P'Pool campaign in terms of humor in an AG's race?
Let me say, I am no media specialist. I have always appreciated Roger Ailes and others who could come up with clever ways to deliver pretty tough messages.
The hound dog ad, you mentioned Roger Ailes,
exactly,
he came up with that.
Exactly, the Bashir ad in '96 and so on. However, I don't know how we convert the message that we will have to deliver to the citizens of Kentucky in a humorous fashion, but it will be done in an effective way.
Are we going to see Aqua Buddha?
May see Aqua Buddha, may see other themes.
Okay, okay. Let me ask you about Senator Williams, Senator David Williams running for governor. You've obviously dealt with him quite a bit because of your position as state director. What's your assessment of what kind of governor he would be?
I've known David Williams since he was a freshman in the State House 25, 26 years ago. I think he'll be an absolutely excellent governor. I've had a close relationship with David. I've seen him function in the House, the Senate. I've seen him function in his law office, and I've dealt with him strategically on other campaigns. He is extremely bright. I am appalled at all the focus on his likability. He does have a certain manner about him, but it's a manner bred of his surpassing knowledge that he can get the job done. He is the person who can move this state, and sadly, we're a state with over 10% unemployment. We need to make a lot of changes. He can get us there.
So when you're looking at the political landscape, how do you kind of view his chances of defeating incumbent Governor Steve Beshear as compared to Republicans' chances in 2003 or 95 with Larry Forgy or 2007 when Governor Fletcher was running for re-election?
Gosh, the comparisons you call on bring a lot of things to mind. I thought we had a great chance in '95. I think that the state was finally ready to cycle back in a Republican. We narrowly lost. I'm not sure there's a comparable. This is an interesting election cycle rolling out of 2010. I think he's got a far better chance than what the state's largest papers have indicated in polls. I think that he's got a 50-50 chance to win this governor's race, and when polling is done, after we begin to effectively overcome the attacks of the two biggest papers and spread our message, I believe that we have at least a 50% chance to win this race.
All right, let's briefly touch on the other races because all the statewide offices are up for election. You don't have to go through all of them, but I'm curious from your take, which are the other ones that the Republicans have the strongest shots in?
Okay. I must say, our strongest shot is Jamie Comer, another legislator who's done an excellent job. Of course, I've known Jamie since long before he ran for the State House. He's raised $200,000. He's up against a guy who has never had any closer relationship with a farm than to sell the Farmer's Almanac. I think he's an excellent candidate. Casey Crosby is outstanding. Once again, someone I've observed for a long time.
She's running for treasurer.
She's running for treasurer. I think she is in great shape. From there, it probably gets a bit tougher.